We are going to make a basil garlic tomato sauce. I love this recipe. When you think of canning and preserving your harvest, this is one that really comes to mind. I grew most of these ingredients, which is really fun, and it's just a way to enjoy delicious tomato flavor when I don't have tomatoes growing outside anymore. It's also a fairly simple recipe. There's not as much prep for the tomatoes, which I love. You don't have to peel them like some tomato recipes. So I think this will become one of your favorites, and hopefully this helps you know all the steps so you can can it effectively. Like in any other recipe, you want to make sure you've washed your jars, your bands, and your lids, and you have those ready. And you also want to make sure you've prepped all your ingredients. I got chopped onions, I've got garlic, I've got basil, whatever the recipe calls for, have it ready to go, and it will help you as you go through the steps to not slow you down and you be ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and get my tomatoes ready, and I'm going to put them in the pot, and we're going to do what we need to do. But first, this recipe calls to saute the onions and the garlic. So we'll do all those steps, and then I'll show you once we're ready to can. Once my garlic and onions have cooked, I'm going to join those in with the tomatoes, and I'm going to cook them for 20 minutes. Then I'm going to puree all that fun, delicious mixture, and then you're going to strain it. And then you're ready to finish getting your sauce to can. For this sauce recipe, follow all the steps in detail. You're going to be doing some prepping of the onions and the garlic with the tomatoes. You're going to be cooking that, then you'll be pureeing it, you're going to strain it, and then you're going to cook it again. And what that does is a lot of times with tomatoes, they're real liquidy, and your sauce will seem more watery until that last step in this recipe where you're going to cook it for a longer time, and that sauce amount should reduce by about half. And that's when you know it's ready. It'll be a thicker sauce that is then ready to can. Once my sauce has cooked down and my jars are warmed, I am ready to start filling them to start the canning process. So for this specific recipe, your acid that you are adding will be in the form of either citric acid or bottled lemon juice. For this, I'm going to do the citric acid, and it calls to put it in the bottom of each jar before you start to fill it. So you're going to do each jar one by one. I just did that there, and now I'm ready to add my sauce. So we're going to scoop it in here. This recipe calls for a 1/2 inch headspace. It's always like a game trying to get this correct every time. All right. So I actually feel like I underfilled it just a smidge, so I'm going to add a little more. All right, here we go. So we're going to do a 1/2 inch for this recipe. You're going to set it here, go all the way around, ensure the level of the sauce is at the bottom tip here and you're at the 1/2 inch. That looks good. Then we're going to use the bubble remover portion of the tool. We're going to go down the sides and pull in to remove any air that could be in here. Go all the way around. I always do it a couple times just to ensure it's good. And we're going to put that there, and then we're going to wipe the jar. Really make sure it's clean. When you start doing canning with the sauces, it really starts to get messy, especially around the rim. So make sure that's clean. And my lid that I have clean and ready to go is going to go on my band. We're going to do fingertip tight. That means we're going to go right to where you meet resistance and just tighten it a little bit more. I'll get my jar lifter, and we're going to go back in the water, and I'm ready for my next jar. I have now filled all my jars. They are ready to process. So I will put the lid on my canner and I will turn the heat up and I will wait till it's a rolling boil. You want to make sure there's full on bubbles and it's really boiling. On this pot, since I can't see it, I will listen and then check. Once it's fully boiling, you're ready to start your processing time. For this recipe, the processing time is 35 minutes. That's how long you will leave the jars there, and then we'll be ready to go to our next step. 35 minutes has passed, and we are ready to turn our heat off. And I will remove this lid. Always watch out for steam. I'm gonna wait 5 minutes, let them sit there, and then we'll be ready to take them out. I'm gonna take out my jars, they're ready. Just lift, place them on a towel or on a wood cutting board and let them sit. Take them all out, don't touch them for 12 to 24 hours. After the 24 hours, we can check our seal and we will be ready to enjoy some delicious tomato sauce. After 24 hours, you're ready to check the seal on all that you canned. So I'm pushing down, nothing's happening. This looks good. It's sealed all the way around. I'm happy with that. What's nice about this recipe is this is a recipe that gives you an option to use a larger size jar. So when you follow this recipe, you can use this jar or this one. So the yield will be about 3 if you do this and about 7 if you do the smaller size. Keep in mind that the processing time will change. So we did 35 minutes here. You will do 40 minutes for this. It's just a nice way that if you don't want, or maybe you don't have space to have just tons and tons of jars, this recipe does give you an option for the larger size. So that is an example of both. Delicious sauce. I know you will enjoy it as much as I do.